Hey guys, Thomas the Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie No One Will Save You. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One way over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, second and third to my Patreon and PayPal where you can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server you can join, collab and chill and all that cool stuff, and chilling will be reminded at the end of the review. Now let's get on to No One Will Save You. Now what's interesting about this movie is that I have seen zero trailers for this, and I only came across it actually quite randomly. And then I decided to check out some movie reviews after the fact just to see what some people were thinking about it, as this one definitely does have some interesting elements going on within the movie. And I'm not so surprised that a lot of people are coming away with, a lot of people are saying it's good, but they can understand why other people will say that it will come across as decisive. And I'll be exploring that in more depth, and this will be a spoiler review. So if you wanna, watch this movie first, then I'd probably recommend clicking off the video now, just in case you want a complete mystery and no sense of that context in you, except for the poster, which might give you at least one hint about what type of movie this is. So with that out of the way, and with spoilers now contained, I will commence telling the story. This movie follows a young woman named Bryn. So she seems to be a young woman who seems to be isolated, and she seems to be at least doing miniature, building this miniature set or miniature city as a little pet project, or at least that's what it was perceived as in the beginning of the movie. And she also seems to be writing out some gift card type of these letters as this sort of part of her daily activity, I suppose. And we get our first hint that something seems a little bit off, seeing as she's walking across the grass, and we see this sort of circle of cut grass, and she seems to just water around it casually. So she mails her packages, and she visits the site of one Sarah Adams. We see her pass by one individual on the way there who seems to, just scoff at her. And the circle of people are quite a distance away, but they seem to also be muttering and, not being all cool with it. And, most intriguingly, she seems to hide from this individual cop and his wife, and makes her way back, practicing or making one of her new letters. We then begin to see her dance alone, practicing these steps. And based on the type of dance and the type of phone we see she has, this seems to be a more old school, an era piece, in the 1990s, or maybe even a little earlier, I don't know, before, technology really became a thing in terms of, the internet and all that stuff. So this does seem to be, at least this area seems to be in that context, so that's what I'll put forth as the suggestion here. However, after her phone rings, it disconnects rather quickly, and the tone rapidly begins to shift from all of this sort of light activity that she's been doing throughout the day, and the music and tone set this scene. And I should probably explain now, at this point of the movie, that the grand total of this movie has very little dialogue, and I know that a lot of reviewers and myself kind of have to point that out right out of the gate. I wanted to spend a few minutes to set up at least the intro to show that I noted that, or lacked thereof, of any dialogue, and now I'm actually stating that as a solid thing that is throughout the movie. So the movie is more dependent on context clues about what she's doing and the emotional things she's doing and the emotions she wears on her face. Now, there is a few dialogue scenes, probably one or two at the very most. So that's all we get in that regard. So anyways, as all the lights turn on and off, this is like later on in the day, she is awoken from a noise outside, and she sees that her dumpster has fallen over. She tests the lights to see that the light switches aren't coming on, and she sees that the door has been slid open and hears a noise, and sees something moving around in the distance. And it appears to be making strange noises, and begins to run off. She gets a better view of it, and it appears to be, you got it, an alien. She tries to hide under her bed, and she has to move to the other side of her bed to do so, as the alien makes her way into the same room. After that, the alien makes its way out through the window and back up to the top of the roof. However, this scene does slide and take its time, allowing that tension and all of that good stuff to rise as a consequence of all of the slow, just it creeping along and so on and so forth. So, see, she's able to get a glimpse of it, another glimpse of its feet anyway, and she closes the window and she takes some sort of prod with her as a weapon and moves back to the stairs. And she's trying to avoid making even further noise, obviously, along the way. Unfortunately, her fridge goes a bit nuts, and the alien ends up back inside the house. Now, I will point out that her prod weapon does seem to vanish here, so that is a issue, if a minor one, or she's hiding it at the very most. But her phone dial does go off when she's relatively close to it, so the alien grabs it and kind of figures out how to hang up the phone. So these aliens do seem to have a level of intelligence. In fact, like I said, they seem to even be able to make noises, which seems to be, as we will later learn out, is their way of communicating. She sees it in the reflection, and it traps her in this, behind her own fridge. She pushes it outward from the fridge out, and when it pops its head up, she attempts to flee, but she runs right into a door that has been opened up. So she stumbles her way back up, and she's unfortunately pulled and grabbed by the alien, which uses some sort of telepathic ability at this point. So again, this alien has a lot more going on. Sorry for the cut. Anyways, back to the review. So, as I was saying, the alien grabs her with that telepathic ability that I had mentioned earlier. However, she does seem to still have that prodding weapon with her, and is able to jab it into its forehead, and is able to kill it with that attack. So, she checks on the body just to double check. She covers it, and she attempts to call 911, though her power is still out. But her water does still seem to work. So she gets in her car, which also doesn't seem to work. So she takes a shower to just remove the blood from all the attack that had preceded, and block the door just in case anything else wants to get in, or anyone else, and uses her bike to ride back into the city. She checks back and she finds herself with an upside down truck and we notice some more of that circle as these circles as we pass by on these upper end shots as she makes her way back into the town, which still has several people still moving casually, so I'm assuming that a lot of people still don't know what's going on at this point. But unfortunately she runs into the cop and his wife while trying to get to the police in general and once she does, she gets spit at, and he remains silent, and she walks out. And even the other cops seem to give her that look, meaning that she is still being treated very harshly for something she had done in the past, and seems to come across. And she makes her way out without proceeding to say anything further, much again akin to the lack of dialogue that has been proceeding thus far. So she huddles down somewhere else and begins to cry. And she sees a bus stop nearby. So, as we see some more shots of these various circles, we see her get on one of the buses and begin to relax herself as a man begins to move closer to her. Unfortunately, we begin to see the man, when he does move closer, speak in that very alien guttural sound noises that the aliens have been making beforehand, which means that the aliens are indeed hosting Inhumans too. Now, it does appear that some people on the bus are still themselves, and some of them are also aliens. The bus driver seems to be himself, stops the bus, and abruptly disappears as the bus stops. I'm assuming this is to indicate that something horrible has happened to that bus driver. I guess he'd taken over too, or something along those lines. So she checks the building in private, but it's locked. And she discovers that, finds, I should rather say, Maud Collins' grave, and she begins to cry. She looks up and sees an incoming storm. And she stops as she eventually regains some of her movement to once again stop to see some people, but all of them have been taken over as they have all their hands up and are speaking that weird guttural sound language. And they all look to her. So she works her way back to her own home and removes the cloth just to see that if the dead alien is still there, and indeed it is, but has left some fluid behind. She takes a few deep breaths, and she begins to set fires around the house, or around like the pots and pans, to begin set up. She covers her room with the nails and the boards to protect her home, or more so herself. But unfortunately, the light source beams in, and the alien body that we see is now lifted and is pulled outside. So these aliens have a lot of tricks that are just so unfair. And just as that one is brought away, another alien is dropped down as she makes her way to the basement. The light beams down once again from the outside, from the attic or the basement door, as another alien makes its way down. She sees a pair of scissors and grabs it, and it looks like it's sitting, and as she attempts to attack, it removes her knife via its telepathic abilities. She rushes back and is tackled by a smaller alien. So these aliens come in different shapes and sizes, as we now see. She bites it out of desperation at some points in this struggle sequence, and uses the heated up pots and pans on the smaller alien and pushes a door on it to eventually kill that one. So she slowly backs away. After quite a few other sequences prior to it dying, like it gnashing at this door, it grabbing her, she grabs a mop, it breaks, she tries to use that as a weapon, but and she spears another alien, the second alien, with the spear at least. It gets like stuck a little bit anyway. So she tumbles her way outside again. And we see other alien, and it's much larger than any of the previous aliens that we had seen thus far. She bumps into the possessed man who has obviously been taken over, and the ship eventually beams him away up partly, but does stop proceeding to do so. The ship seems to be able to divide up into several smaller ships. She runs and as the larger alien begins to give chase. Again, we see the alien commune with some other aliens as we hear other aliens in the distance too, and we hear some screaming as well, meaning that the rest of the town seemingly is now being attacked in this alien invasion. She slips and falls and collides into the car, her own car, and she takes out her lighter as the bigger alien charges at the car and gets stuck inside of it. So she lights up the match, lights it up under the car, and crawls away as the alien is blasted in the explosion. But the light beam itself begins to chase her, and a fourth alien, aka the second one that had entered the house, does a 180 turn, and it waits for her to attack as it pushes her away. She quickly is frozen by this red light at some point in the attic, and is toyed with at this point. I don't know, this scene just seems to be really odd. But the alien comes up and seems to vomit some sort of parasite, which moves its way towards her. It moves inside of her mouth, and she awakens in this sort of new sequence where it seems to be a memory of sorts, or something of that nature. So, she begins to look around and sees her friend, Maud, now alive. And this is where we get one of our few moments of dialogue when she gets to say that she is sorry. Once she does so, she's able to pull the parasite out of her own mouth, but is suddenly outside of the house. As this loud noise begins to go off. So the ship returns to then pick up the parasite that has now been moved out. She tries to begin running, but we see her run right into a version of herself, and she is stabbed in the lower part of her chest. So not a killing blow, but definitely a devastating one, potentially. But she uses her desperation to have a cutter knife that she had brought with her, also hidden away somewhere, and goes for the neck. So she's definitely going for the kill here. So she now continues to move and struggle forward. However, a new alien that is also large blocks the way, and at this point she is finally pulled up into one of the ships. And now we see as more and more aliens begin to observe her and I mean like tons of them. There's probably over 20. 3 of them prod her head to look into her memories. She wakes up in this darkness, at least initially, and her memories begin to play out. Of her own mom, and that one freezes over, and then she sees how her moments with Maud broke out, of her killing her own friend, I suppose, yes, accidentally. Or in a fit of rage, I suppose, is a better way of putting this. She enters back into this darkness, and again, she sees her younger former self. She grabs her own hands, and she once again gets to apologize. The aliens seem to watch on and begin to commune. For whatever reason, she is dropped back down, and as she looks up back at the sky, she kind of just laughs at the crazy ordeal that she's been put through, and begins to just again laugh as this light show is being provided. We cut to some sequence of time having passed, and her prepping up and finally being happy. And as she moves outside, we see very clearly the aliens who have now taken over humans sort of are like dancing, and one of them like dances with her, and she gets to dance with somebody, and then she gestures to directly us, the audience, and that is where the movie closes out. And no, I'm not kidding, that is how the movie ends. So that is one of the moments where I say what I established earlier when I said that these other reviewers were putting forth that the last portion or the last sequence would probably be a make or break for an audience seeing this movie, on top of the fact that it has a lack of dialogue for the majority of the movie in and of itself, which is a definite gamble in today's modern movie making style. So yeah, this movie has quite a bit going for it in that regard. There's a lot you have to now have to establish in your own mind. You kind of have to make the clues, or you have to let the clues sort of unfold via the what we see in the flashbacks or things of that nature. And until those points are alluded to, again, you're more so trying to just piece whatever little bits and pieces of her story or her character that you can try to with that lack of dialogue, on top of the ending, which seems to imply a quote-unquote happy ending. And I'm gonna put that in quotes because somebody, when I saw one of their reviews, the director said that this was supposed to be a happy ending, despite the implications of this ending being, I would argue, far from happy. So yeah, I'm gonna have to put a death on, and I'm gonna change the phrase here, death of the director instead of death of author here. I kind of got a different vibe on that ending. I mean, so we'll kind of go over sort of what the name of the movie implies and kind of how it goes into it. So the whole thing is that no one will save you, meaning that no one will save her due to the incident that she caused, aka killing that young girl, Maud being the police chief's daughter. They are friends, and apparently this incident caused the entire town to essentially turn their backs on them. However, instead of her saving herself, it's an alien invasion, something that is completely out of her control, and them forcing their wills upon humans, other humans within this town, or possibly even the world. I'm gonna assume the former question mark? I'm not really sure how far their invasion is spreading. We do see some air shots of the ships flying around, but again, only within that general vicinity, so I question whether or not this is going beyond this area. But I digress. So, out of all the townspeople, she seems to be the one that is also let go by these said aliens instead of being taken over. So she seems to be able to, through her memories when they access them, they seem to just let her go and proceed to let the rest of the aliens commune with her, despite her killing a bunch of the aliens in the process of trying to survive, as it were. This seems like it's two different segmented movies trying to collide, is what I will say about this movie. Under one hand, it's trying to present itself as a general alien invasion, and in that right, everything seems to follow through. The other half of this movie seems to be a deeper dive into this sort of human exploration of whether it be forgiveness or something or other in that regard of all the stuff with her memories that is later half explored in the movie. And the reason why I feel like that this divergence is so apparent is because they do seem to clash with one another when you think of all the aspects, well, in the literal sense of togetherness, or cohesion, rather. It does seem like, again, she killed a bunch of aliens, so why would they let her go? Again, even despite seeing her memories, it does seem really odd of a choice, from their perspective at least. And, furthermore, if they're letting her go, is she the only one that they're letting go? I mean, surely not everyone in this town is like an asshole, right? Like, what about that bus driver as a given example? Does he, I don't know, or do other people get a chance of getting their memories probed and seeing if they have sympathetic backstories, which seems to be the only indication of whether or not they get to be free or not? I don't know. It seems to be a large, lingering question by the end of the movie. And more so, and a question that is sort of in tune with that, which I already mentioned, is the alien invasion just secluded to this area, or is there stuff going on outside? Is this a worldwide invasion? Are other people around the world also getting those little opportunities at life while aliens are invading other people? Who knows? So we're kind of subtextualizing it within a framework of a town at the very most. And again, there does seem to be a collision with the sequence of it being an alien invasion movie, as well as this character study about whether she, quote-unquote, saved herself, because that, I have to seemingly put that in quotes only because it does seem like it was on behalf of the aliens that found empathy because of they were able to even access her memories, and also, I guess, simultaneously forgive her for killing all these other aliens previously. They were able to double down on two different aspects of her, I guess. So yeah, I'm not really sure. So, under one hand, I think I enjoyed a vast majority of the movie. However, I actually do understand the criticisms that these other critics were bringing up, because I actually have them, and I'm actually putting them forth, unlike them, because I actually feel like I should opt to do so because I'm honest, and because that is honestly how I feel about this movie, as well as what is also objectively there. Again, she does kill the aliens, and all the stuff I said happens, so there's that. So, yeah, I think in terms of a score, I'm actually going to go with a 5 out of 10. And I know that seems a bit harsh, but I do think that the collision of these two things is very much... It very much almost hurts this movie in a way. In a context that I'm not sure if the director thought that through or not. And again, I think it's in most part because of the collision just not working as well as it probably could have worked. And what I think would have made this more interesting is perhaps maybe she didn't kill any of the aliens. Maybe that could be like one of the ways that resolves at least the latter half of this problem. Or subsequently, with that, have maybe one other character survive. We see, or it's not being taken over. Maybe see like not the entire town was in this environment. Not everything was as it seemed to her own perception, challenging even that idea. I think that would have been a really interesting way of looking at things too. There are definitely other aspects that can be cleared up. I guess it's how you interpret how these aliens are communing and how they are able to have that level of sympathy even again after all of these killings have been taking place. So there's all that to go over and mull over throughout this movie. Anyway, that is my review of No One Will Save You. And if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server you can join, collab, and chill, and do all that cool stuff. And until next time, everybody, bye-bye.